Hello, Fort Riley Elementary. It is Kimberly Smice here, and I am here today to talk to you about Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA. So what is FERPA? It is a federal privacy act in which school districts must maintain the confidentiality of all personally identifiable information, PII, in education records related to students. So when I say school districts, that also can be anything, public schools, colleges, universities, anybody that would take federal funds falls under the FERPA Act. So when I said PII, which stands for Personally Identifiable Information, is any information that would allow someone in the community to identify the student. So this includes a student's name, their address, their phone number, email, photo, their date and place of birth, their grade level, attendance, height, weight, or any awards that they have gotten. All of those fall under FERPA. So when we talked about the parent and student rights, they have rights to the privacy of the student's educational records. And when we talk about a student, they have to be of adult age. So that means if they are enrolled in college, they would be considered an adult age student. So if they're a 16, 17-year-old taking college classes, they have rights to their educational records. So inside their records that they can get access to would be their grades, their immunization and health records, disciplinary records, student progress reports, their academic or physical test results, grade point average, and their attendance records. So what are some benefits and shortcomings of FERPA? Well, for the benefits, parents and adult age students can inspect and receive a copy of the records. They can deny access to others outside of the school setting with exceptions. So there are some people that they cannot deny from it. They can request to correct errors. So if there's something in a record that they see later on that they do not agree with, they can have a hearing and get it corrected. They can also have it to be opted out of military recruitment, along with disclosing the student's directory information. So if they don't want some other source to have their name or their picture, they have the right to opt out of those programs. They can also file a complaint, so they can go through the complaint process if they want to. All of that is part of FERPA, so you cannot deny them any of those rights. Now, there are some shortcomings to FERPA, so some things that they don't cover. So parents and adult age students don't have the right to sue the school. That doesn't fall under FERPA. They can still sue the school, but it's not covered under that act. Parents and students also have to respond to the opt-out opportunity. So if they don't want to be part of that military recruitment, it's not the school asking. They have to contact the school to let them know. And also, there are no set requirements for safeguarding education records. So there is nothing federally that says what and how a record needs to be taken care of. So there are some exceptions to FERPA, though. So normally FERPA is the only people that can have access to that information are the teachers, staff, anyone that communicates or has connection with the student. The exception to those situations or those personnel is anyone that is a police officer or designated personnel in the following situations of an epidemic disease or if there is a school threat or shooting. And the reason that those are acceptable and why we would need to disclose the information to the police officer or other designated personnel during that time is to protect the health and safety of students in connection with that emergency. We don't want to have to call up every single parent in the school wanting to ask their permission to tell the police officer what happened or to allow them to talk to their student. So we just need to make sure that we understand that there are times that the police officers and personnel can talk to the child without parent permission. Now, there are also student privacy laws, so these are different than FERPA. They found the need in different states for them because teachers were using many resources online, like files and assignments, and doing assessments online, posting things on social media and websites, and even using free applications on different tablets. So what happened is FERPA, over time, became weak. Due to changes to make it easier to collect and share data to large private companies. So since 2013, more than 120 privacy student privacy laws have been passed in the different 40 states. And so FERPA has changed its act to include sharing information and student records with vendors without the parents' consent. So states started making those student privacy laws to bypass part of FERPA. But now FERPA has added it in there, but those student privacy laws in those 40 states still are intact to still cover their teachers and their schools. So then we also come to the Fourth Amendment in FERPA. So we need to know that during the 2015 to 2016 school year, 80% of public schools in the U.S. use cameras to monitor their students. This had doubled from the previous decade with the amount of cameras at public schools. So then parents and students started getting concerned and saying that that their Fourth Amendment was being violated, which prohibits governmental entities, like public schools, from conducting unreasonable searches. So they felt that having cameras would be invading their privacy and then causing them to search and get some other information from them. But the cameras can only be used in low expectation privacy areas, but not high expectation privacy areas. So like at our school, we have cameras out in the hallway, and we have them outside of our school building looking to different areas where there could be some different issues going on. But there are none in our bathrooms, and there would be none in a locker room or anywhere that would be considered private. There are no cameras. And the other part is that the school needs to notify the school community that there are cameras on there. It can be anything from, in ours, we have it in our handbook. It can be the principal sending out a message at the beginning of the year or notifying parents when they sign up their kids. As long as they know that there are cameras there and that they are not in those high privacy areas, we are following along with FERPA and the Fourth Amendment. Now, when it comes to vendors, so people online, different places that we go in FERPA, schools are responsible for the vendors that they give their student data to. So if a vendor intentionally or accidentally misuses the data, the school is responsible for it. So the school needs to make sure that the vendors have appropriate safeguards in place and that the contracts are being withheld. So if it says in a certain thing that they're going to do certain policies, like different programs that we use, then we need to make sure that they're following through with it. But some warnings for some of you guys that like to use those free vendors, they could actually be selling records or data to a third party. And if that happens, then that is a violation of FERPA and the school would be responsible for those choices. So there are ways to be FERPA compliant. So how can we do that? Well, first we need to raise awareness. We need people to know that FERPA is out there and what it is. We need to know the rights, protections, and expectations. So what should we be doing as educators? How can we help our students and keep them protected and their information? We also need to make sure that our vendors are compliant, that they are following along. We need to train all of our school employees, like I am doing with you guys right now, giving you that information on what they need to follow through with. We also need to have compliant procedures for our staff. So we need to make sure that we are following FERPA and that we all are doing the same things to stay compliant. We also need to make sure that we're encrypting our files and emails. So if you're saving something on your computer or sending an email, you're not putting the student's full name on there and other private information that could be harmful to the student if something had happened and if your computer would be hacked. And then any other tools that follow FERPA guidelines, we want to make sure that we are using those as well. So there is also the destruction of data. So when we are done with it, we need to make sure that we are destroying it. But the thing is there is no specific guidelines on destruction of the data collected. So what we need to do is we need to capture our information. We need to organize it. Then we need to utilize it the way that we need to, also managing it, making sure we're checking in. And when we're done, which is normally the end of the year, if it is not something that goes into their record, we need to destroy it. If it goes into the record, it will stay in there for so many years and then it will be destroyed. You can't just throw it in the trash. So that's where we go into the different cycle on how to clear the information. So if it's on your computer, make sure you are clearing it out. You find everything that you want. You purge out anything that's not necessary. And then you end up destroying it. So putting it in our shredder box in the front. It can be anything from also putting it in your own shredder and then making sure that you are disposing of it. But you cannot take any personal information and just throw it in the trash. It needs to be destroyed. If there is a violation of FERPA, there are different things that can happen. First off, the parents or the student could first discuss the problem with the school or the school district. That's what we want to have happen first. If they feel we have put out their information and violated their rights, we hope that they would talk to us so we can solve it. The next step is if they don't feel that we've done enough, they can contact the Family Policy Compliance Office of the U.S. Department of Education. What they will do is they will investigate our school, and then they will assist with any policies, practices, or security controls that need to be put in place to stop it from happening again. And then they will follow up and make sure that we are still in compliance. If we are not, then other decisions will be made. Could be other policies need to be changed, or maybe there's different security protocols that need to be put in place. So that's really done case by case. But the big thing is if nothing works and it continues to happen and FERPA continues to be violated, since all schools that fall under FERPA are federally funded, they will end up pulling the federal funding for the school. Now that sounds really extreme, and it really is. There hasn't been any school funding pulled since this has been developed, but we need to know about it so we know that we are in compliance and that it is a big deal. A large number of complaints, though, to the Family Policy Compliance Office are isolated incidents of inadvertent or accidental disclosure of the student records or the PIIs. So it doesn't happen very often. When it comes to our school district and FERPA, it is in our school board policy under the student privacy policy, and it talks about how it protects the right of privacy of students and families, how it also talks about student data security breaches and biometric data. So if you want to know more information about where our school district stands with the policy on FERPA, you can go to the website and check it out. So I want to leave you with one last thought for today. It's from Betsy DeVos, our Secretary of Education, and she says one key takeaway from the Commission's work was that the federal government needs to do a much better job of providing usable information that's simple, streamlined, and clear. And that falls right with FERPA, having some different expectations from state to state, and that there isn't always one set clear direction that every school should be taking to stay in code with FERPA. So they know moving forward that they need to make some changes. So that also means as a school, we need to make sure that we are up to date on our FERPA policies. If you would like any more information on anything that I discussed today, please go to the following websites to find out anything that you need to know. And I am also here to answer any questions as well. Have a great day, and I hope you learned something new about FERPA.